You are not your attachment style. If there's anything that you will get out of this video, is that identity will create your reality. So the identity that you've chosen to take on is essentially what is creating your reality. My name is Z, and I have been single for 6 years because of one thing. I've decided that I wanted to explore myself, my psyche, and now share everything I've learned in the 6 years of my self-discovery journey. Today, I want to talk to you guys about attachment styles. And as you all know, you guys may have heard of attachment styles. If you're someone who has started learning about attachment styles, this is going to be a overall video, not to educate you all on attachment styles, but my problem with attachment styles and identifying ourselves with these attachment styles. And the reason why I want to make this video is just like you, I was over consuming so much of this content when I started learning about attachment styles. If you don't know what attachment styles are, essentially they're usually the type of behavior pattern that you take on depending on your childhood trauma or childhood experiences. So these are behavior patterns that you end up taking on that affect the relationships or your romantic relationships because of whatever you experience as a child. So we have 4 different types of attachment styles. We have anxious attachment, which is when you have a hard time trusting, you're very afraid to, you have a fear of abandonment, which is one. The second attachment style is secure attachment, which is you're someone who grew up in a very healthy, loving home environment, which makes you a person who's very trustworthy. You end up being someone who is very confident in relationships and you trust very easily. The third attachment style is avoidant attachment, which is essentially you're someone that tends to run away whenever intimacy becomes closer with someone. So you're afraid to either fall in love, you're afraid to just be your true self. So you just you're afraid of it, so you avoid it. You avoid anything that's close intimacy with someone. And the last is disorganized, which is essentially you can be a combination of all of these types of attachment styles. So just so I get on there to explain these type of styles to you all, I want you guys to see why I have a problem with this. Because there's a fourth category, which is disorganized. There is something that these behavior patterns can be found at any point in your life. And so my problem with this is that the problem with identifying yourself with a type of attachment style is that you have chosen now to associate and identify yourself with your attachment style. So if you're someone who finds yourself in on and off relationships, then you have taken on the role of an anxious attachment. And because you have chosen to identify as an anxious attachment, what will happen is that your reality will then start reflecting that back to you. And so why I started my video with identity creates your reality is that you have to be very careful with what identity you have chosen. And you have to also be very careful with the type of content that you're choosing to watch, because the more you watch attachment issues or attachment styles content, the more you are reinforcing in your brain, in your mind, that you have chosen to take on that identity. And what ends up happening is that your reality will start reflecting it. You will start encountering yourself. You will start finding yourself in situations where you end up either not being able to find true love, or you have a hard time sustaining a healthy, long relationship because you've associated with a type of attachment style. Attachment styles are great if you're someone who wants to get better awareness, if you want to learn, if you want to understand your psyche, but you have to be very careful not to identify yourself with an attachment style. That's the problem. The problem is that you'll end up identifying yourself with one type of attachment style. And so then the more you continue identifying yourself, which is the more you continue wanting to look at videos about that attachment style and how to heal my attachment and how I could do this and how I could do that, the more you think you're trying to get better because you're trying to improve or you're trying to heal, the more you're actually doing more harm than good, because you're feeding your subconscious mind on a daily basis with content that's serving more reinforcement into the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is so delicate. This is why I always tell you guys that you have to be very careful with the type of content you use. When I started exploring attachment issues, I found myself wanting to know everything. I started saying, well, I'm an avoidant attachment. I'm an anxious attachment. And so I would just watch videos after this to understand this. And I realized that I felt more bad than good. I felt like I had a problem. And so that's the problem. The problem is we've chosen to label ourselves with this specific attachment style. Don't label yourself as any attachment style and watch how lighter you feel. Watch how lighter you feel when you do not label yourself or identify yourself as an attachment style. Instead of asking yourself, why do I have this attachment style? Ask yourself, who is the person that I want to be if I'm in a healthy and loving relationship? How do I want to feel if I am in a healthy and loving relationship? Those are the questions that you need to ask yourself. You don't have to ask yourself, well, how can I heal my attachment style? Or how can I get better at, how can I improve my attachments? So the more you keep asking yourself these questions, the more you're actually reinforcing yourself, your subconscious programming, and you're training your mind to start looking at everything around you as evidence that you are that attachment style. So what ends up happening is now your reality will start reflecting that. So you, instead of actually going out, finding ways to improve yourself, which is exploring new hobbies or, going out to learn a new course or finding ways to connect with yourself more or connect with nature, finding ways to regulate your nervous system, finding ways to improve your fitness or improve your overall health. Instead of you choosing to vibrate or align yourself with those habits, what you end up doing is you end up staying in the same situation, living the same reality that you're living, and you're still watching all those videos of attachment styles and anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, and you're just watching all of this content. You're making other people, you're giving money to other people. Not saying that it's not going to help you, of course not. But if you have been identifying yourself with this type of attachment for the last 2 to 3 years, that's a fucking problem. That is a fucking problem. And I'm here to tell you all that your identity will create your reality. I'm a testimony of this. When I decided to not label myself with an attachment style, and instead I chose to just observe that I may have these behavior patterns, but I may also have other behavior patterns that will, can lead to this way of me being, instead of identifying myself with this attachment style, I chose to observe and learn and actually gain insight to myself. But I never decided to take that identity, because when I take that identity, what will end up happening is that I will start attracting the experiences that person, so-called, has identified herself with. So if I identify myself with an avoidant attachment style, I will end up finding myself in on and off relationships, or I'm running away from someone continuously. But instead, I want you guys to do one thing. Stop watching the content. Stop overloading your mind with all of this labeling and, I am this and I am that. Stop doing all of that. I want you to start thinking about the person you actually want to become. If you were in a loving and healthy relationship, what would you be doing right now? You wouldn't be watching videos on attachment styles or trying to heal your attachment style if you were already in a loving relationship right now, right? Because you feel safe and secure with that person. What would your higher self be doing right now if you were in a loving and healthy relationship? Think about that for a second. Now that you've thought about that for a second, your identity will create your reality. That is how quantum physics works. Whatever belief systems you put in here, whatever subconscious programming you put in here, because you are listening even when you don't think you're listening. Whatever you put in here will be reflected in the experience that you live in your reality. Your identity creates your reality. Be very careful with what identity you choose to take on. The more you watch this type of content, the more harm you do to yourself energetically. Think about it. You're watching these videos when you can be out at the beach, relaxing by the sun, enjoying nature. You can either be, grounding yourself, walking barefooted on grass. You could be doing all of these things, taking on that type of identity. Yet you've chosen to sit home all day and watch someone tell you about this attachment style and how you have that and that you need to heal that. And now you think there's a problem with you. There is no problem with you. You've just chosen the wrong identity. And this is why I'm making this video. Be careful with what identity you choose to take on. Be careful with what content you choose to listen to. Your subconscious is being programmed on a daily basis. The more you feed your subconscious mind, the more it's going to be reflective in your reality. I hope this video does more good than harm. I love you all. Mwah.